Hi everybody, I'm Mindy Thomas and welcome to Career Chat. We air every Monday at 11:30 a.m. and Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Many of us are on social media, a lot of us are on it a lot. But I'm wondering if you are on the number one platform to help you land a job, and I'm talking about LinkedIn. And before I get to my next guest, let me give you some mind-blowing statistics. There are 575 million people on LinkedIn. Of that number, 260 million are using it on a monthly basis. My next guest is a nationally acclaimed author and speaker, and she has helped thousands of job hunters get their stuff together for resume writing and LinkedIn. She's a master resume writer. She has written 3 books. And the one you might know of is How to Write a Killer LinkedIn Profile. They are all on Amazon. She holds an English degree from Yale, a JD from New York University. I am so happy and proud to present my next guest, Brenda Bernstein, the CEO of the Essay Expert. Brenda, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mindy. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you on the show, and I'm so glad you made time for us. I have a zillion questions, so let's get right to it.
I have a zillion answers.
I know you do. So, what are the biggest mistakes people are making on LinkedIn today?
Well, I'd say the biggest mistake is not being on LinkedIn. If you're in a profession where people are looking on LinkedIn to connect with you, whether that's because they're looking for an employee or perhaps they're looking for some kind of services, whatever it is, you want to be there, and then you want to optimize your profile. So, the 3 main things that you need on LinkedIn are you need to be locatable. Like I have my 3 L's. So the first L is locatability. People have to be able to find you. So big mistake would be not doing all the things that help people find you on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. That includes having a robust network, having keywords in the right places. Those are the main things. And then also staying active. That's part of being found on LinkedIn. So that's the first one. And then the second one is likability. So the next mistake would be presenting a profile that doesn't really inspire people to read anymore. Like it's drab, it's boring, it doesn't really tell them who you are. You're getting contacted for jobs that aren't the right fit for you because you haven't really explained what you really do. So anything that has to do with, well, when someone actually lands on your LinkedIn profile, do they want to read more? Mm-hmm. And then the final one is, I call it my 3rd L, but I'm cheating a little because the word is aliveness. So the L in aliveness gives you your 3rd L. And the mistake would be really like the thing you do when you have a gym membership and you never go to the gym.
Oh, yeah.
You want to have your LinkedIn profile and use it and be active and be on there at least 20 minutes a day, interacting with people, networking, building your network, responding to posts, posting things yourself. You've got to stay active or you're not going to get the value.
Well, Brenda, a lot of experts like yourself talk about the 500 connections you must have. Why is that?
Well, the 500 is like this magic number on LinkedIn. It shows up next to your name, basically, how many connections you have. As long as you have 500, it says 500 plus, and it doesn't really say anything over that. So if you have 2,000 connections, it still says 500 plus. Mm-hmm. So you want to have that 500 plus number. Mm-hmm. Having a robust network, which I mentioned earlier, is important for a lot of reasons. One of them is very practical because it helps you to be able to find people and also be found on LinkedIn, because part of the search algorithm's a little bit mysterious. But we do know that it has something to do with how many first-degree connections you have, how closely you're related to the people you might be searching for. So you need to have a lot of people in your network so that you have a lot of first-degree connections, second-degree connections, and you'll be able to find them and they'll be able to find you. And the other piece of that is, let's say someone's looking for an employee. Are they going to choose someone who is going to be an evangelist for the company and has a big network, Or are they going to choose someone who has like 50 connections on LinkedIn? It just doesn't look good for you no matter what job you're applying for if you don't have a big network.
Let's talk about the number of recruiters that are on LinkedIn right now. The percentage of recruiters, fill in the blank, the percentage of recruiters that are actually looking for that digital presence for the candidates that they're thinking about bringing in for an interview. What's the percentage?
I believe it's interesting because it used to be up around 97%, and it actually, the last I read, it came down a little bit, but still, it's going to be around 90%.
90%.
So that's a big number. And you can't afford to take a risk that the recruiter that you want is going to be in that 10%. So you've got to be on there if you want recruiters to find you. And recruiters have special tools that they can use to find you. For instance, you know, you have this skills section on LinkedIn, and you're like, who the heck cares about my list of skills and endorsements? Well, recruiters can actually search for you based on your skills. So you really need to be on there if you're looking for a job that recruiters are involved with. You know, there's some industries where they don't use recruiters. And if they don't use recruiters, you may or may not benefit from being on LinkedIn in terms of the direct benefit of a job search. But even if you are in an industry like you're a teacher or you're a nurse or something like that, you can still benefit from being on LinkedIn because you're still going to be able to use it for your networking. And who can you connect with and discover anything that there is to know about the industry. Maybe you know someone who knows about a job. So I think it's always valuable to be on LinkedIn, even if you're not in an industry that uses it primarily.
I agree with you. Wholeheartedly. I want to piggyback on the skills section because you have the opportunity to plug in 50 skills. So if you're an HR professional or you are an entry-level college grad that wants to be in HR, how many times do you have to mention HR? As many as possible?
Well, you're going to want, in the skills section, you want to use all the possible terms that have to do with HR. So you'll put human resources, you'll probably put HR. Now, you're going to choose the ones that come up in LinkedIn's list. I recommend that you don't add your own skills because the skills that are there are the ones that are being searched for by recruiters. That's why they're there. So you're going to want, benefits, and you're going to, like, whatever the whole range, disability, what benefit, all of those things,
right.
Family Leave Act, anything that you're an expert in, you're going to want all of those terms in your skills section. And when you go to skills and you start typing something, LinkedIn brings up all these suggestions.
Yes.
So you could go through the whole alphabet if you want. Like, type in A and see if there's anything in the A's that you want to have on your profile.
Well,
so the skills section is a specific section that recruiters can search on, and other people can endorse you for your skills. But then there are other places that you want to have the word HR and human resources and benefits and all of those things. Diversity, if you're in HR, is a big one. So you also want to have those terms as much as possible in your headline. And so this is the most important place, is your headline. That's your main line that's under your name in your profile. And then the second important place, and this is something that a lot of people don't realize, you want to have those words also in your job titles. You have 100 characters in your job title. So if you're a human resources director, that's great, and you have human resources automatically as one of your keywords, so it's convenient. But even then, you can still write human resources director, and then you can use the pipe symbol. It's the up and down symbol that's on top of your backslash probably on your keyboard. So you can use that, or you can use some other symbol that you like. And then after your actual job title, you can say, FMLA, diversity and inclusion, like all of those other areas of expertise that you have. So you want to have those in your job titles. not just in your headline, not just in the skills section.
That's a great tip.
And you can also have them in your summary and in the body of your experience sections, but you're going to get the most bang for your buck in the headline and the job titles.
Those are super tips. I want to ask you about the about section, or what was used to be known as the summary, because when I'm reviewing LinkedIn profiles for my clients, I see that the about section is null and void and the skills section is null and void. So in the about section, how do you attack that as, say an HR director, or as a recent college grad who wants to get into HR? What are you going to say in the professional story to the world? Because it's the internet, so everyone will read it.
Yes. So that section, the first thing, I'm going to first tell you what not to do.
Okay.
So what not to do is copy your 3 or 5 line or whatever you have summary from your resume and stick it into your LinkedIn profile.
Right.
That is a very, very common thing that people do. So if you've done that, don't feel bad. You have a lot of company. But my recommendation is not to do it like that, because you have 2,600 characters now. They just expanded it from 2,000. Wow. So now it's 2,600 characters to use in the about section. You can really talk about what's important to you. What are your values? So that's the opportunity in the about section, is to talk not just about your accomplishments and your skills and all the things that you can do and your skill set, but more about who you are as a human being and what you offer. Maybe something about your philosophy. Maybe there's a story, something you're really proud of. You could even tell a story in that section, because you want to grab someone's attention. It's not, you don't want it to be a bunch of blah, 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 and someone reads it and they're like, oh, it's another blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You want to surprise someone by telling them something they maybe weren't expecting to hear, or that's engaging to them. That's how I approach the about section. And I do write it in the first person almost all the time. I recommend the first person, because then you get to tell your story. You can tell a little about your history, how you got to where you are now. That's all great.
I agree. First person, like you are talking to your audience. Why not? Why don't we just talk to our audience? I'm really curious about your position on people that just lost their jobs as a result of COVID. And so number one, are they going to put an end date of March or April if they just lost their positions, if they were furloughed and or laid off? So we've got terminations, we've got layoffs, we've got furloughs. Is it okay to still say to present and then on the resume put the end date? What's legit right now?
My opinion, it's just one opinion, but my opinion is that if you're furloughed, you can say that you're still there. Yeah. I wouldn't put an end date if you're furloughed, because there's still a decent possibility that you're going to be going back to that same job. If you were actually terminated and laid off, I would put an end date.
Okay.
People are going to understand, I think. If people see a March end date, they're going to know what happened.
They're all going to think that it was a result of COVID, not because I didn't perform well. So it's you really have an advantage right now if you did get terminated for performance on some level. I know it's dramatic.
Yeah, because people are going to assume it's COVID.
They're going to think it's
now,
COVID.
I still would, if you have an end date, then you can still put a current experience section, and there are different ways you can handle that. I have a section about that in my book. But you can still say, you can still put your job title. You're still the thing that you still are the person who does that role. So you can still write that you are a human resources director and have that as a title. And you can have the company as, there are different ways to handle it. You can say, seeking opportunities as the company, or you can put your name as the company. So whatever you're comfortable with, but do have a current experience section. Just have it be basically that you're in a job. It can be clear that you're in a job search at this point. People know what's going on.
So Brenda, there's also another advantage to entering a new position while you're seeking, right? Because the recruiter,
Yes.
let's talk about that, drill down on that for us.
Well, the advantage is there are certain factors that the algorithm picks up, and one of them is a current job. So having a current position in your LinkedIn profile actually helps you in the search. Mm-hmm. That's a big one.
Well,
I think that's probably the biggest one. And then the other one is you get to put in more keywords. You get more of your keyword density. We didn't talk about this exactly before, but keyword density helps you. That means the number of times that a keyword shows up. So, if human resources director shows up once, it's not going to be as valuable to you as if it shows up twice or 3 times or 5 times. So, not that you would be human resources director in 5. Hopefully, you become move up the chain, right? But
yes.
Human resources, that could show up multiple times. So, if you have a current experience section, you get to put in more keywords.
Excellent. These are all important tips. We've got to take a break right now. We'll be right back to talk more about LinkedIn and with my subject matter expert, Brenda Bernstein from the SA Expert. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacqueline. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacqueline.com to book an appointment today.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Hi everybody, we are back at Career Chat with Brenda Bernstein, the essay expert. She is a subject matter expert in LinkedIn and resume writing, a master resume writer and a master LinkedIn profile expert. Brenda, let's get right back to it because I have a question about the hidden job market. People talk about networking. I've had folks on my show that have talked about how to leverage the network, but how do you really find those positions inside a company?
Well, first of all, how do you use LinkedIn to find those people, I think would be the first step. And there's so many people on LinkedIn who'd be willing to speak with you if you reached out. As long as you don't reach out and say, hey, do you have any jobs for me? That's not what people really want to hear. But anyone who has a helping bone in their body is going to help you if they can and have a conversation. So if you're wanting to know, how do I make it into this particular position? Here's where I've been so far, and I'm really interested in doing this. Do you have any advice for me? People will usually help. Now, if let's say they graduated from the same school that you did, they're especially willing to help. I have done things for people I went to the Bronx High School of Science for high school, and I was asked to help a student who was applying to Yale, and I went to Yale, and I was asked to help her with her application essays to get into college. Now, this is part of what I do in my business. But when I was asked to do it for someone from the Bronx High School of Science, I volunteered to do it for free.
Oh, wow.
And it was fun and satisfying for me.
Wow.
So, it really is, there's that connection. Even if you went to the same high school, and then if you went to the same college, you want to find all those people in your network and find out where they work, find out what they do, and if there are any connections that look like they'd be valuable, reach out to them and see if you can have a conversation.
Many industry leaders talk about when you send that email to be very specific. If there's a job that you are interested in, give them the link. Don't make them work for this favor.
Yeah, very good point.
Please give them the information that they need, and don't be scared. Don't be scared to reach out. Look, all they can say is no. And it's much easier to say no behind, a typewriter than in person. But as you said, Brenda, people are generous right now. They have empathy. We understand people are in tough spots right now. So it brings me to the survival job. So if you're an adjunct professor right now, and say that you lost that position, or you had another full-time job, and say that you took a job as a contact tracer. And you know what that is. That's one of the new jobs that have opened up as a result of COVID. What you do is you contact everybody that has been, everybody that the infected person has come into contact with. Do you put that up on LinkedIn right now? Or is that...
I would put, if you were a contact tracer, I would put it onto LinkedIn.
You would?
Because that shows you really care about this pandemic, and you care about your community, and you want to make a contribution.
Yeah. It's
now,
an important job.
If you got a job stocking for Amazon, or packing orders at Whole Foods for home delivery, maybe that's not something that you want to put on your resume. But if it's something that shows that you care and that you are someone who contributes, I would definitely put it on.
Very good, very good. I was wondering what your position was on that. Because I know a bunch of folks that have landed these roles, and from New York all the way out to the West Coast. These are real roles, and they're recruiting right now in every state for contact tracers. And I think there's going to be growth and advancement in that industry. So what other industries have you heard of, or occupations that might be hot right now, or up and coming? Let's talk about that.
Almost anything having to do with tech is hot right now. So if it's at the intersection of healthcare and tech, insurance and tech, finance and tech, anything that is at all tech related, it's blowing up, because everyone needs tech to do what they've always been doing in person. Now they've got to do it remotely.
Yes.
And so tons of jobs in tech. Now they're also very competitive right now. Especially now that people are all working remotely, it becomes more competitive because people are applying from all over the country. So it's a double-edged sword, because you can apply to a position that maybe you couldn't apply for before, but on the flip side, everyone is doing that. So you really need to make sure that your LinkedIn profile is optimized, that your resume is optimized. All of that is like tip-top shape.
Yes.
Because otherwise you're not going to be competitive.
Yes.
Other jobs, of course, some areas of retail are blowing up. Grocery is kind of blowing up. Telecommunications, trucking and shipping, any kind of like logistics, because with all of the online orders, logistics companies and trucking companies are totally booming.
Yes.
Financial services, people are concerned about their finances when something like this happens. Whenever there's a recession, people need help. They need to get advised on what to do with their finances. And then some places, Domino's and Pizza Hut, like those places that deliver food, they're also hiring a lot of people. I'm not sure how much of the high level positions they're hiring for, but there have to be some. There's got to be HR positions when you expand your workforce by tens of thousands of people, you're going to need more
Yes.
people in HR to handle that.
Yes, yes, yes.
And then e-learning is a big one right now. There's a lot of news about how e-learning is so ineffective, especially for the younger kids. But to have someone who's, or a company that's really figuring out how to deliver e-learning effectively, I mean, that's also a big area. So, and then healthcare. In some areas, healthcare jobs shrank because there were no more elective procedures, but there's still the health tech. Pharmacies haven't stopped needing to dispense the prescriptions.
Yeah.
So, there are definitely, there's a lot going on in healthcare and biopharm. So there are a ton of industries that are hiring and that are expanding.
Yes, and there are people landing every day, although you might
Yep.
be sitting out there saying, I don't think so. You need to jump in the job market now, especially because unemployment is not going to last forever. And the $600 a week stimulus, that's not going to last forever. Right now, it looks like it's ending July 31.
Yeah.
So we have a whole nother faction of people, millions of Americans that are employed, that are looking to overhaul resume and LinkedIn to get ready. Now, the biggest question I have for you today is about the achievements. So after the resume is prepared and they have their selected contributions under each area of their job, do you then copy and paste them over to LinkedIn? And is that a red flag for the current employer and your current peers to see, oh my gosh, Brenda's got all her achievements in there. Is she looking? Is this a wise decision to plug in all the achievements? Because I know writers that put them all in. I don't. I pick and choose. Like if it's a little bit like 10 years ago or 8 years ago, I might put some in. But in the current role, I'm not putting them in. But let's ask you, what do you think about that?
I think it would be a case by case. If you're very, very concerned about your employer catching wind that you're looking, and I mean, I think ideally an employer would see that you're looking and realize that maybe they need to take better care of you or give you a promotion, in an ideal world, right? But I know that that's not the case everywhere. So if you are really concerned about having your employer find out, then you might not want to change anything in your LinkedIn profile. I think, the main thing that employers might notice is a change in your about section. If you revamp your about section, that can be a red flag. Now, I also advise people, if you are revising the about section, to make it a sell for your company and what your company offers. And you can talk about your role, but make sure that you're not coming across very obviously as a job seeker.
Yes.
And you can do that. There's ways to write the about section so that people might look and go, oh, wow, she's really decided to really plug this company and be out there about how great this company is. So wonderful, do that. In terms of the achievements, I do generally put them on. But again, if you are really concerned about your current employer finding out something, then don't put them on. It's a personal choice.
Yeah.
I do definitely advise you, if there's anything confidential, don't put it on your LinkedIn profile.
Right.
There might be some things that you can have on a resume that's sent privately that you cannot have public on your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
So you can talk about, instead of giving specific dollar amounts, maybe you give a percentage or gloss over, you may say, hundreds of millions instead of the actual number.
Yes.
So you can be a little more general on LinkedIn if you're not comfortable sharing specific numbers. And I don't encourage you to exactly copy and paste everything from your resume to your LinkedIn profile. I like doing it a little bit differently on LinkedIn so that people get a more well-rounded picture. And maybe you write a paragraph on LinkedIn where you had all bullets on your resume. And then you can have a paragraph on LinkedIn followed by a couple of bullets.
Well, you certainly, that makes sense. And I'm so sorry we have to close because I could go on and on with you, Brenda. It has just been fabulous dialogue with you about all the
Thank you.
expert tips that you have for us for LinkedIn. How can people reach you if they're interested in connecting with you on LinkedIn, as well as buying your books?
Yeah, well, oh, you know what? You told me to have my book, and it's over there.
It's okay. You can find Brenda Bernstein on Amazon.com. Just put in her name. I will do that commercial for you. How to write a killer LinkedIn profile, how to write a stellar executive resume, and how to write a winning resume. Brenda, thank you so much for being here today. And to my audience, I'll see you here next week. Be safe, be strong. If you have any questions for me, you can always reach me at thomascareerconsulting.com. Be safe and be strong. See you here next week.
Thank you.